lovers, it is G-Swizz here, and I'm here today to talk about the books that surprised me in 2023. If you didn't know, this is a 7 on Sunday topic, and I'm the host of 7 on Sunday. I will link the Goodreads page down in the description where you can check it out, and you can participate in a topic in the future, or you can suggest a topic. And I really like looking back at a year's worth of reading and recalling what books absolutely wowed me. And you know what? It was really difficult to narrow down this list, because I read a lot of books this year, I know, but I also read a lot of good ones. So it was kind of difficult to make this list as concise as possible. However, I did, and I hope I don't regret this in the editing room later when I think of a new title that I could have featured in this video. That's currently how I'm feeling right now. That's a vibe. I honestly don't think that this topic needs too much of an explanation, but what I will say in regards to this topic is that I'm going to be talking about the books that surprised me in the best way possible. Not the worst way possible. Like, not the books that shocked me by like how actually bad they are when I expected them to be good. No, I have my most disappointing reads video for that. But today I am going to be talking about the books that bamboozled me in the best way possible. Meaning that my expectations were kind of low for them, but I ended up being thoroughly impressed by them. So I guess without further ado, let's get straight into this list today. I'm going to talk about the books that surprised me in the best way possible. I'm going to kick this topic off with a young adult contemporary romance that absolutely rocked my world. This right here is Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. I was extremely impressed by this, to the point that it's actually one of my favorite romance books I've read this year. It's definitely one of my favorite rom-coms of all time. It's definitely my favorite YA rom-com, and I don't read many of those at all. I really struggle with young adult contemporary specifically. I will still read young adult fantasy, but only really the young adult fantasies that are included in my monthly subscriptions, like Fairy Loot or Illumicrate or the Bookish Box, all that stuff etc. I'm still a huge romantasy fan, but I do struggle to read high school romances for some reason, and Better Than the Movies absolutely showed up. I remember reading this in February of this year because I wanted to read it during Valentine's month, and I was reading around like 35 other rom-coms at the time. But this one stood out amongst a lot of them, like majority of them. I did still enjoy a lot of the rom-coms I read in the month of February, but oh boy, did Better Than the Movies impress. I would argue that Better Than the Movies is also better than most rom-coms out there. I understand that it being a young adult novel and everything, it's not gonna have like the same spice factor, obviously, because that's not what to expect out of young adult contemporary at all. But it was just the tension, it was the back and forth between the two characters, it was the chemistry that they both had, it was the story that surrounded them, it was the way that Lynn Painter was able to write a good teenage story without making it too cheesy. Like, yes, there were cheesy moments, but cheesy in a sense that we all get that cheese. Lynn Painter wrote a young adult novel very well and did not dumb it down. I honestly feel as if her young adult rom-coms are not dumbed down, and I really appreciate that. Overall, Better Than the Movies definitely did surprise me. It made me realize that Lynn Painter was a new favorite author of mine, and I'm going to continually read her books, regardless of whether or not they are YA or adult. I'm just going to read all her books going forward, because this book definitely left a long-lasting impact on me. And the next book that surprised me this year was Unfortunately Yours by Tessa Bailey. Now, this specifically surprised me because I struggled with Secretly Yours. I've talked about this a few times on my channel. I cannot stand the protagonist because of just how inconsiderate she is. And I've mentioned a few times that if I meet someone like Hallie in my real life, I will actively avoid them. Like, they are someone I would truly unfriend because they don't understand boundaries. But anyway, Unfortunately Yours, however, had a much better dynamic. Like, yes, the miscommunication trope was used in the story, but then again, a lot of the rom-coms I read contain the miscommunication trope, and this definitely was not the worst representation I've seen of it. Like, I've seen the miscommunication trope done worse before. But overall, what I appreciated about Unfortunately Yours is that it had a lot of heart. These two characters are just so perfect together. I just loved seeing their romance blossom. I also love the cat in the book as well. And the story was just very engaging overall. I appreciate both of their character development, and honestly, I kind of see this couple as a couple I know in real life. That's how much this book stood out to me this year. I was so devastated when I found out that Secretly Yours was not what I expected it to be. I was really sad because I truly just wanted to enjoy that book. However, However, Unfortunately Yours definitely restored my faith in Tessa Bailey. And thankfully, after Secretly Yours, I read around 5 other books by Tessa Bailey this year, and I enjoyed them. So yeah, Unfortunately Yours helped me get back into Tessa Bailey's works again, and I'm appreciative of that. And the next book/series that took me by surprise in 2023 was the Bergman Brothers series by Chloe Leese. I actually started reading these after February/Valentine's period because I was in Hale reading a bunch of rom-coms during that period, and I'm not gonna lie, I kind of find it weird that I didn't read all these books at that time. But then again, I do remember purchasing like all of these on my Melbourne trip, which was late March anyway. So I read these in like, I think April or May this year. I read the first 6 books in the series. The final book, I believe, will be coming out in 2024. As I'm filming this right now, I have not checked the Goodreads updates for the final book. I just need to know when Vigo's book is gonna come out because I really want Vigo's love story like now. I love Vigo. I love him as a side character. He's a very strong side character, and I cannot wait for him to have his own book. And I'm kind of appreciating the fact that Chloe Leese is committing to end the Bergman brothers off with a bang by using Vigo as the final sibling to find his romance. I seriously didn't believe that this book series would make my favorite, but it is. It has been like over 6 months since I've read the last book in this series, and it is still stuck with me to this day. I really want to go back and reread these books, and I definitely want to do that before book 7, so I think this whole book series is going to go on a rereads list for 2024. I'm just so surprised. I mean, I know I shouldn't be. I love a good romance companion series that follows a family or a friendship group and whatnot. I love the Bromance Book Club. I like some of Tessa Bailey's books that follow siblings. So honestly, I shouldn't have been surprised, but I kind of am, and I think I was really surprised because Chloe Leese was a new to me author this year, and they really impressed me this year, so I can't wait to read more from them going forward. But overall, I just wasn't expecting this to make like one of my favorite book series of all time. And yeah, the Bergman siblings / Bergman Brothers series definitely did. Now the next book / series that I'm going to talk about in this most surprising reads video of 2023 is a book series I wanted to read before filming this video. I finally read Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. If you've been following my channel for around a year, like at least a year at this point, November of last year, I reread the Caraval series. I think it was in November, it could have been December, one of the 2 months. I remember it was definitely sometime last year because at the time I was trying to figure out whether or not it would be appropriate for me to read Once Upon a Broken Heart, considering that I actually put this on a 5-star predictions video, not for this year, but for last year. So I kind of wanted to read this book last year, but Caraval really turned me off. I know Caraval is a series that means a lot to many people, but it is one of my least favorite series of all time. I personally don't believe it was well written. I think that it's really messy. I think that the way that it was told narratively made me not care about the series, because the series was about 2 sisters, yes, but the fact that one sister had one book and then another sister had another book and then finale was combined and everything, and the trilogy had so many characters, so many plot lines, so many stories, so many twists that I started not to care about. It just became really messy, and I kind of found myself asking what the point was when reading Caraval. What was the point of the series? Yes, I know that the series means a lot to other readers out there, and other readers are able to find a deeper meaning within it, but unfortunately, the Caraval series kept on losing me. I was interested in the story of Jax, but that was because I knew that the next book series was going to follow Jax, so I kind of intentionally paid attention to his story, and I very much appreciated the backstory that we got in Caraval, but at the very same time, I kind of wish I didn't read Caraval because I felt as if it was a waste of time, personally. Once Upon a Broken Heart definitely made me see this world, this universe, in a different light. And I very much appreciate the trilogy. Yes, as I'm filming this video, I've read the full trilogy, and I know that not everyone loves A Curse for True Love. I get it, I understand it, and I think that Stephanie Garber should have paid more attention to Jax in that book, because I feel as if we got a lot of Evangeline in that book, and we got a lot of the antagonist in that book, but I definitely reckon a huge reason why so many readers are invested in the story is because they are invested in Jax and Evangeline's story. And yeah, I do believe that A Curse for True Love could have had more Jax in it. That all being said, I'm still pleasantly surprised by this book series, and I think that Once Upon a Broken Heart and the entire trilogy is what I wanted to see out of Caraval initially. I think that it was very well written narratively, thankfully. I still have my problems with it, but I can totally see the appeal with Stephanie Garber's works now. And I think I'm going to be reading some of her books going forward. I would definitely read more books within this world. I don't think I would read any more books following the Caraval characters specifically, because I don't care about Scarlet, I don't care about Tella, I don't care about Legend and Julian, whatever the names are. I really don't care about them. However, if we got more Ava Jax content, of course, I'm so down for it. And I did like the side characters in this story as well. I was very much pleasantly surprised by Once Upon a Broken Heart. Unfortunately, it did not get the 5 out of 5 stars that I predicted it getting based on the fact that everybody loved the first book when it first came out. However, it did get a solid 4, and I am now kind of curious about anything else that Stephanie Garber puts out. So honestly, even though a lot of readers have lost faith in Stephanie Garber after the finale in this book series, I've actually gained a little bit of trust in her ability to tell a good story. And I hope that the feedback that has been given for the final book in the series is something that Stephanie can take on to hopefully help her in the finales that she writes in the future. And the next book that absolutely surprised me in 2023 is a book that was recommended to me in the 12 Friends Recommend Me 12 Books challenge, and that, my friends, is Ashes of the Sun by Django Wexler. This is the first book in a trilogy by Django Wexler, and this book just absolutely blew me away because I was initially intimidated by it. I thought that this book was just going to be long and dense and tiring, and I really did not know what to expect, honestly. I just keep on seeing this book in bookstores. I know how chunky it is. I saw how long the audiobook was. I mean, I have the audiobook in my Audible library. For some reason, I just thought that $5 for an audiobook was a good deal at the time, but I was still scared to pick it up. I'm so happy that this challenge encouraged me to pick this book up because it is a very well written fantasy for those who are wanting to transition from young adult fantasy into adult fantasy. And I personally say that because of the way that it's told narratively. It very much reminds me of my favorite book series of the year, which I will mention later in this video. It's another book series that also took me by surprise. I was thoroughly impressed by this first book. I still have not continued on with this book series yet. And the reason why is because I just still haven't purchased the rest of the books, but I will get to that eventually. I definitely need to put this on my priority list for 2024. It was really good, and I think I'm gonna reread this first book, not just because I want to recall events, but because I really enjoyed the first book and I want to go on that journey again. If you are wanting to try out a very underhyped high fantasy, I would highly recommend this book series to you. It was so good, so action-packed, so engaging for the page count, and honestly, even though the first book is a large page count, I personally think that the pacing was perfect, and I usually critique large page counts. I will usually say, okay, this needed to be like 100 pages shorter or 50 pages shorter, but with this book in particular, I think that the page count was perfect. I would highly recommend this book series to those who are wanting to try something new because it definitely took me by storm, and it's made my favorites list. And another book series that absolutely wowed me in 2023 was the Dark Court Rising series by Beck McMaster. I suspected that this was going to be some good romantasy, but I did not expect this romantasy to be that good. I did not expect a Hades and Persephone inspired romance to be this healthy either. The romantic dynamic between Iskvian and Tiago is one that lives in my mind rent-free. I love these two so much. I would quite literally die for these two. I'm obsessed with this book series. There are some romantasies that I've read this year that I've absolutely loved, but they haven't blown my mind the way that this book series has blown my mind. A perfect example of a series like that is the Deliciously Dark Fairy Tale series. I love that book series so much, and it's definitely on my top favorites as well. Like, it stands next to this book series. However, I expected to love that one, and I expected that book series to be a favorite. Whereas with this book series right here, I did not expect this one to make my top 5, but it has made my top 5. It is so perfect in every way. I mean, almost every way, okay? I think that the finale could have focused on the side characters a bit more. That all being said, I think Beck McMaster is going to focus on the side characters in a spin-off. I don't know yet, but I would love to see it. I just think that with the hints towards a spin-off toward the end of the book, I would say that it would be a waste not to do a spin-off series for those side characters. Overall, I love and appreciate the journey that I went on with these characters. I still cannot forget about them. I've read so many books this year, and yet Iskvian and Tiago are still living in my mind rent-free. I still think about them like daily, weekly, whatever. When I think about romantasy couple goals, I think about these two. They are perfect in every way. To the point that I think that they have given me inspiration for my favorite characters video of 2023. I think I might be changing that topic slightly on my end to favorite couples of 2023, because I feel as if I've read about many standout couples this year, and Tiago and Iskvian are definitely one close to the top of the list. Like, it's really difficult for me to decide between them and some other couples I read about this year. I definitely read some good romances this year. 2023 has been a great year in terms of finding some good couples, but yeah, Tiago and Iskvian, they made me believe in love harder than I've believed in love before. And the second last most surprising book that I have to mention on this list today is Belladonna by Adeline Grace, which is a fantasy historical fiction. I kind of expected to like this one, and I think that's because the Kingdom of the Wicked crowd, you know, the Carrie Maniscalco fans, they really loved Belladonna, and I honestly think that could be because the love interest is Death himself. So it has that dark quality to it. It's definitely not the same as Kingdom of the Wicked, but it has that dark twist for a romantic fantasy. So I kind of assumed that I was going to like Belladonna based on the fact that so many other dark fantasy readers out there enjoyed it, but I did not expect to love it as much as I did. I definitely read this at the right time in my life. I know that I could have read it last year with everyone else, but I read it for a Pop Sugar reading challenge because the author and I have the same initials. I mean, my initials are GA, hers are AG, and that would have completed the challenge prompt of reading an author with the same initials as you. So I happened to read Belladonna to complete a challenge, but I had also read it soon after I had lost a very good friend of mine, and in a way this book was very comforting for me, and it helped me process my grief, and it helped me realize that my friend was no longer suffering. I really love the character of Death in here because even though he's meant to be an antagonistic kind of character, his scenes were very comforting to me because he reassured the protagonist that he does not like doing what he does, but unfortunately it is inevitable. And in a way I felt very much comforted every single time he was on page. So overall, Belladonna was a perfect book for this time. I honestly don't know if I would have enjoyed it as much as I did if I did not read it at this time, but I'm really happy that a book like this was there for me at the time that I read it. It definitely wowed me, it definitely surprised me. I'm looking forward to continuing on with the series. I purposefully decided not to read Foxglove this year because I want to read the book closer to the finale, but also I want to be able to enjoy the trilogy for the storyline rather than just how it makes me feel, because I enjoyed Belladonna for the vibes and how much comfort it gave me. I did enjoy the plot, but I think if anything, Belladonna I mostly appreciate because it was a book that was there to comfort me in the time of grief. And last but certainly not least, the final book slash series that I have to mention today that definitely wowed me in 2023 was the War of Lost Hearts series by Carissa Broadbent. And for those who are wondering what I was initially comping Ashes of the Sun to when I was talking about Ashes of the Sun, it was this book and this series. At the moment, as I'm filming this, the War of Lost Hearts series is my favorite book series of the year. It has left a long-lasting impact on me, and just like I think about Tiago and Iskvian and they live in my mind rent-free, so do Max Antarius and Tessania. I love these characters so much. I love the story so much. I initially went on a ride with this book series. I read this first book and I made a mistake of listening to the audiobook while I was commuting to the office and back because I did not fully get to soak in all the aspects of the story. So I decided to read the second book and then go back and reread book 1 and book 2 and then go into book 3. And what I decided to do instead was make sure that the copy was like right in front of me instead of just listening to the audiobook, and to pay attention to the different terms and to the story. And overall, this book series just came alive for me. I just remember losing so much sleep over this story. I remember crying so many tears for these characters and for their situations. Honestly, the reason why this surprises me a lot is because, I mean, the book covers, right? They look like a generic young adult fantasy, but it's a new adult book series that deals with such heavy topics. I would say, if you did like the Throne of Glass series, if you're wanting something that is definitely more focused on the conflict rather than mostly focusing on the romance, which a lot of romantasy does these days, I would highly recommend the War of Lost Hearts series. I would also recommend this book series if you've also read Ashes of the Sun by Django Wexler. If you're wanting a new book series to sink your teeth into as well, this book series is perfect. The second book in this series, Children of Fallen Gods, has probably got to be my favorite sequel I've read ever. This book series means so much to me. I still think about these characters, and in a way, as much as I want to say that this series feels comforting, I would definitely say that Daughter of No Worlds, the first book, definitely feels comforting and has some good comedic relief, but the rest of the book series, as much as I love it so much, it's beautifully devastating. It's very real. It's very raw. It does not pull its punches. And honestly, I kind of expected a romantically driven fantasy, and I definitely reckon that's because the series is titled The War of Lost Hearts, but The War of Lost Hearts is nothing to do with romance. It is to do with everyone these characters have lost to slavery. Oh yeah, it's a hard-hitting read. When I read this book series, I just wanted to change the world, and I think Carissa Broadbent wrote this book series with the intention of trying to do something better with the world. Every single time I want to be motivated to go out there and do something or to be brave, I want to reread this book series to give me that fuel, because I believe this book series gave me a passion for people that I never really thought I could possess. It is a very beautiful story. I love these characters, I love this world, and I love the message that this book series sends out, and I think that it's worth reading. Of course, I have to end off on the heavy note. I guess that's gonna be it for this video today, book lovers. If you happen to stay to the end of the video, leave me the orange heart emoji. And if you happen to enjoy this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet already. Join the amazing community of book lovers. And also, I have social medias. I'm at GSwizzleBooks on Twitter and Instagram, and I'm also Goodreads. That's www.goodreads.com/gswizzle. And finally, I'm at TikTok. I'm at GSwizzle on TikTok if you want to follow me there for some bookish content. I love you, book lovers, and I will see you later. Peace. And I flipped it in a double. Thought that I would have, and I flipped it in a double.